It's Toronto's podcast on the Canada's Podcast Network.
Today, we're going to meet with Shrad Rao, who's the founder and CEO of Wagepoint. Wagepoint's a highly successful company. I'm delighted to have Shrad. So, Shrad, welcome to Canada's podcast. As everyone knows, I have a little chat with everyone beforehand, but it was a good chat. But why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are, how you got here, and maybe at the same time a little bit about Wagepoint, which is your focus for the last few years in terms of building something from scratch, kind of thing.
For sure. Hey, it's good to meet you, Philip. And of course, we have been chatting for the last 20 minutes. So it was a good chat from my side as well. My name is Shrad. I'm the CEO of Wagepoint. A little bit about myself is that I founded the business. Well, I guess a little bit about myself is that right now I'm in San Francisco, having moved here from Atlanta a few weeks ago, as I was joking with you, to sort of have a broader social life, only to find myself in quarantine for the next 3 weeks. So I'm so glad that I decided to increase my cost of living around this time. I'm a Canadian entrepreneur that has moved, and I guess I'm bi-country as well. But I also grew up in Dubai. I'm Indian by ethnicity. I was born in Bahrain, so very global heritage. Call myself a child of the free world, and that's really.
When did you get to Canada? I'm just curious, in terms of you.
Yeah, I was 19. So I was in Dubai at this time, and I had just finished. I finished high school at an early age, not because I'm a genius, but because my mom had 3 kids at the same time, and she was like, let's just start sending them to school early. So I think I was in kindergarten, I think at like 2.5. She was like, that's it. I'm done with you guys. You go to school.
Right.
So we ended up, I was like 16 and a half, I think, or something when I graduated high school. So I had a few years I was always very certain that working was much easier than studying. And so I decided that before I went to university, which I knew was my final destination, I would go work. And so that's what I did in Dubai for a few years. And then when it came time to picking a country to go to, because I wasn't going to stay in Dubai long term, I decided that I would pick Canada, because Canada, they were #1 country to live on the UN's list for 7 years in a row or something like that. And I was like,
I think we still are.
Yeah, we still are. Yeah. And so
I'm obviously not from Canada either, but here I am.
Yeah, well, I didn't notice that, Philip. No, but yeah. So instead of throwing a dart, I was like trying to be selective about where I go, because I wanted to pick a home, and Canada's social justice values really spoke to me. And I was from Dubai, and there was desert environment, and then I saw trees and water, and I was like, let's go there. So that's sort of a bit about my background. I'm I said.
So I know you studied out east, but I mean, what made you decide to become an entrepreneur? You got your residency in Canada, all of that stuff. Did you work for a while? Why an entrepreneur?
No, so I've always known I was going to be an entrepreneur since I was a kid. It was either that or a journalist or Indiana Jones. And I was pretty sure Indiana Jones wasn't an actual legitimate, and so it was, I was always going to be an entrepreneur. Like I remember, even when I was a kid, there was almost no other path for me. I can't really explain it other than to say that I like to be able to influence change, and I, more than anything else, I like to curate the company I keep, and I don't really like to suffer fools. So all of those reasons, and I'm not saying that I don't, obviously this sounds very, as if I only want to hang out with smart people. That's not the case. I just want to hang out with good people. And so ultimately it is really about being able to control my environment as much as possible without getting obsessive about it. So that's really why I've always known I was going to be an entrepreneur. I don't think I actually thought about any other way to live in some ways.
Okay. How did you get into this current sort of the Wagepoint thing? I mean, why payroll?
So The real answer here is that, again, because I was always going to be an entrepreneur, I'm not the kind of entrepreneur that falls in love with the product. Like, I don't brush my teeth one day and have like this brilliant like light bulb of an idea. I'm more a problem solver. So I look for problems to solve, and it's not the product itself, it's the problem that's interesting for me. And so when I was looking at the space, like I literally used a methodical way, I guess, of looking at building a business. And a good way to think about that is I was looking at, I wanted something with a large total addressable market. I wanted something that was a painkiller, not a vitamin product, something that everyone needed to have. And I remember thinking that I wanted to trip over customers wherever I went. So if I was, eating dinner, I could like find a customer. If I was getting my hair cut, that could possibly be a customer. And I was like, what kind of business looks like this? And at this time I was in St. John, New Brunswick, which is where I went to school. And I was kind of trying to figure out how I would achieve these entrepreneurial sort of ambitions. And I started looking for a partner to go do that with. And it didn't matter to me what kind of business we had, but I always knew that I love collaborative working. So like the idea of being with someone else is a lot more fun than just doing it on your own. And so I was looking for a partner before I knew what business I was going to build, because I figured that if I could find someone with similar value systems, like we cared about the same things, we could figure out everything else in life from that. And so I started doing like founder dates, if you will, in St. John. I was like 60 or 70 of these like beer dates, essentially having beer every night. 60 or 70 of these later, all that was happening, I was putting on a lot of weight from the beer. And and then I was like, okay, I have to solve this problem in a different way. So one of my friends introduced me to a guy who had built a company called Ledgers before. And during the dot-com bust or boom, he actually was successful for some time, but then got caught up in the bust aspect. And so for me, the idea of someone building something, and then even if it was not successful, it was not that important. It was more important that someone tried. And so I really respected that. And so his name is Bill Murphy. And once I met him, I basically said, whatever you're working on, I'm gonna do this. Like I'll give you 1 year for free, and I'll work on anything. And so this is basically how I started this journey. I had $18,000 in my bank, which is what I had saved. I had a year to give to anything, whatever it was, but I had to make it successful. That was the plan.
We were talking about the COVID-19 thing. That's a very good statement. If you think about us entrepreneurs and some of the scariness that we're going into, that you had $18,000, and then you decided to go for it, work for free, and live off that.
Yeah.
Basically, based on a good direction that you felt solid about.
Yeah, I mean,
even though you were doing something else, if you think about people whose business is tumbling, sometimes don't stay focused on the tumble. Maybe do a swerve and work yourself out of it.
Absolutely, yeah. But for me, it was deliberate though. So it was something that I didn't know what I was going to do, but I knew I had time, or I had bought myself time, and I knew that I can do anything. And, and that's the entrepreneurial optimism, right? Like there's nothing that if I've decided to do something, it's getting done. Yeah. And it's that almost determination. Like, someone I know actually says, so she was said that the day after I left my job, I woke up at 7 o'clock in the morning, and it was like I had a job for me. It didn't look like I was out of a job. Like I didn't look like I was unemployed. I looked like I had a job, but it was just now doing it for myself. And so
because you had a focus again. I mean,
yeah, I don't know. For some reason, it didn't occur to me that I had time. I just was doing something else. That's all. But to your point about the COVID thing, I think some people right now, especially, are experiencing the shock of having this happen. And not some people, all of us are, for the most part.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't know if they, like, I had a bit of I was doing it for me.
So I've been through 4 recessions. This is like
Nothing.
nothing on my earth anyway that I've ever seen.
No. And I don't think anyone has. I mean, nobody, like, people dream about this, or they, like, we were talking about this, like you've watched it in movies, but in this particular case, you can't actually leave the theater or your house. So it's kind of it's a very strange time that we're living in, for sure.
Okay. Where are you driving your business to? You obviously have a large Canadian customers. You're in the US now. It's kind of a funny question, but I think we all have to stay on the fact that sooner or later the things are going to kick into gear. You're really busy for the wrong reasons at the moment, which you were saying, which is people's layoffs. So the business is still busy, but where do you see your business in the next 5 years?
Yeah, no, I mean, you're right. It is a difficult question to answer right now because you're so faced with such uncertainty. But yeah, so payroll companies right now are at the epicenter of everything that is happening around COVID related to layoffs, because especially in Canada with records of employment, you need a record of employment to claim EI. And our team is really aware of what the impact of their work is on getting these ROEs out. So we have people, so usually, let's say on a day, we would get like 200 ROEs. Right now we're getting like 2,000. So that's the extent of it. And we don't have, like, obviously there's almost no time that we're thinking, oh, we're going to get 2,000 at one shot. And this is like, I mean, this is rolling in. So I'm talking about like a continuous roll of layoffs that's happening right now. So we're seeing the impact on our customer base, but also on our employees. Like right now, like everything I've got is going around marshaling the team, making sure that everyone is, the people are not getting burnt out, because we have to move people all over the place just to make it through this and take it to a point where customers and their employees, but particularly if you think about it, most of the people who are most vulnerable in society are the ones getting laid off, right? They're hourly workers, people who possibly are living paycheck to paycheck. They may be dependent on what we're doing for food and rent. So we can't slow down. Like, as tiring as it is, we actually have to deliver. So it's a trying time for both us and the customers and the employees. It's all three of us. So anyway.
So is this the greatest challenge you've met in the business to date, or?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Without a doubt. I mean, growing a business is always challenging, but you're never expecting to have this scenario where everything's happening at once. You plan to scale a business in a certain way. This is not.
Yeah, but when you meet challenges, which we all do, how do you have a methodology, a way to handle them that you can pass it?
I mean, a lot of it is trusting the people that you've hired. I think that's like the most important thing. There's one is like, I know who my generals are. And I use this word, I know this sounds like war words, but to some extent we're facing a battle almost. And that battle is just the fact that there's escalating issues coming through from every direction. And our job is to make sure that the customer is comforted throughout this whole time, because they're also scared and nervous. And it's just a difficult situation. All payroll companies are going through this right now. If in normal times we're competitors, right now we're friends, because we're all facing it together. But yeah, so I mean, trusting the people that you've hired, identifying your generals and giving them the space to do their work. So I'm not checking in like every few minutes, how's it going? Because it's going to make everyone crazy. I'm making sure that they have enough space. But also things like, I mean, if you think about it, our employees can see the impact of the layoffs. And that means that they know we're going to have reduced revenue. And so they're already concerned naturally about what that means, what that reduced revenue means. Like, does it mean that they are going to be out of a job? Unlike other, jobs where this may come suddenly to people, these guys have to see the impact almost slowly, right? So it's a combination of being super transparent, super honest. So like I took proactive measures. I said, I know people are going to start to worry about this. Talk to me directly. And here, I already have like a plan for how I will take care of everyone, because I want to make sure that that is my first priority.
Right.
So long story short, there is no one answer, but it is certainly, it's using all of my entrepreneurial hustle to keep everyone together. But you should also know, Philip, that we've always been a remote company from day one. We've never had an office. So for us, it has not impacted us like how.
Yeah, that's actually good in today's world. That's a good thing. Yeah. Okay.
I would like to
We're
pretend that it
fortunate
was.
in the sense we gather once a week as a team, the ones that are in the GTA area. The rest of us, someone's in the UK, some are in Romania. So, similar kind of situation. So, I think that, just coming back to you, because it's we're kind of jumping here, but that's okay.
Too many crazy things happen.
The time requires that. But thinking about you, if you could go back in time, what advice would you give your 20-year-old self?
Start sooner. I think so. Some of that wasn't fully in my hands. Like I had a unique situation. I was a university student, an international student in Canada for a while, for 5 years. And at the time that I had gotten I finished university, at that time, you had 3 months to find a job after your last exam. So your last exam onwards, you had 3 months to find a job. So it was not, I had to find a job, and then you were in indentured servitude, like you were only bonded with that company. I'm using these words deliberately because afterwards, the human rights basically of Canada sort of struck down all of these rules because it didn't make any sense. You can't be forced to be with an employer just because you were an international student and now you're not. Mm-hmm. So all of these changed. Of course, the year after I graduated, all these rules just basically went to hell, which I was like, oh, thanks. But my point is that I wish I had done it during my university and I wish I had just broken some rules, to be very honest. Like, I think I was too honest, and not even honest, but too worried about, what the ramifications could be. But I really should have just said, you know what, I'm an entrepreneur and I know this. I should just do what I need to do. So I wish I had started earlier. That would be, I think, the biggest advice I'd give myself, because I would have had more time to make mistakes too.
Here's another question that kind of overlaps into the COVID thing, okay? Because, like it or not, because of layoffs and things like that, in one sense, those things are potentially creating entrepreneurs, because they have to do something.
Right.
So, and there's no job, so they have to do that. So with that in mind, and I'm thinking a little bit as well, what advice would you give an entrepreneur, that's about to start out in this kind of, pretty, I mean, it's obviously a recessionary economy. If it wasn't last week, it will be next week, kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, really right now, I think a lot of common sense things, right? If you're going to actually, like, everything you do it still has to meet a need, right? All commerce, all business is about that. So today, maybe anything that's non-essential is probably not the business to go in. And again, anyone who has common sense will actually say,
just be really logical. I mean, don't be emotional. You can't be emotional about entrepreneurship. You can be energetic about it, but emotion, not such a good idea.
Well, and it goes back to problem solving, right? Like, I mean, very, very often entrepreneurs, and I think this is particularly non-tech entrepreneurs, to be very honest. Like, we were talking about tech entrepreneurs and non-tech entrepreneurs, and I think this is particularly true for non-tech entrepreneurs, but it's very dream-based. Starting a business is about having a dream and fulfilling that dream. Right. It's not about the act of being an entrepreneur necessarily. It's about fulfilling a specific type of idea or dream. So I've always dreamt of having a cupcake store and selling cupcakes, right? And having beautiful, whatever, window displays or whatever. I feel like tech entrepreneurs, one of the reasons possibly that we tend to sort of look and sound similar is because we approach it from what is the problem we're solving as opposed to what is the product we're selling. And again, I not to disparage any other group of people because I love all of them. And that's actually why we're in the business of serving small businesses so we can support them.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that right now is not about dreams. It's about problems. And
Yeah.
so, and to your point, I mean, that's when you say it's not about emotional things, but
It's about energy.
things.
It's about
Yeah.
energy and logic. That's how
Yeah.
you can. I've started 2 businesses in recessions, so
Wow.
and
You should hear about that.
well, it is a cool thing, but anyway, whatever. I mean, it's not me. So we're gonna keep coming back to our theming because we're overlapping like hell. I was wondering how we were going to bring in COVID-19, and
We can't help it.
bang, it's right there.
Yeah.
You don't have it's here. We can't not talk about it.
Yeah.
But never mind. This is about you, and I don't know. I don't know. This question doesn't really apply. If you were doing what you would do, if you weren't doing what you would do for work now, what would you be doing instead? Well, you'd be doing another entrepreneurial venture instead, because that's your thing. Okay. Are you a morning or a night person?
I'm definitely a morning person.
Yeah, me too. So
yeah. But no, I mean, like I think
it's about 70-30. The people I've interviewed, 70% of entrepreneurs are morning people.
Oh, really? Okay.
But there tends to be a line. They really are either morning or night.
I agree. I'm not that functional. Like my brain isn't as functional past like probably like 8 or 9 o'clock in the night. I just can't do it.
No, mine starts at 4:30 in the morning. Starts to shut down at 3:30 in the afternoon. It's about. It's a good one. If you had to describe yourself in one word, what would it be, and why would it be?
Balanced. Balanced.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that I would say that's probably the most accurate description, or one word, if they could boil someone down into one word, this complexity of this person. I think that the reason I say that is because I think I'm equal IQ and EQ. Yeah. I mean, when I say equal, I don't mean 50-50, but I just mean like I can balance between those two very easily. And just being able to look at, like, I think looking outward is rather looking inward is equally important as looking outward. So very often, and I think other entrepreneurs have this problem too. I'm not sure, but this is something I'd love to learn about, and even in general. I think that I intuit things a lot more than as I've grown older, I've started to realize that I actually meditate on something, and I've taken a lot more inputs, and I'm bringing it inside of myself to solve a problem, more than just looking outside at solutions. So I think that's why I said that.
I think it's a balance myself. I think you're right. So what book are you currently reading? Listening to, whichever.
Well, right now I got Sapiens for Christmas, so I'm reading that.
Okay.
But I've often talked about this actually, about I don't read a lot of business books. I mean, at least this is my take on things. I find it difficult to like I absolutely will read books about tactics. So that's very different.
Yeah.
Like I would read a book about like SEO, or not a book, but like whatever, blog post or whatever. I'd absolutely do that. But about business management itself, I actually think that a lot of the ways that we manage people are just weird, to be honest. And a lot of times, like, people will read these books and then talk about how to manage people, but these books are not written about people. They're written about process. And so anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that I don't read a lot of business books because I don't find them relevant for the way I would like to build my company. And I like to build my company treating everyone as equals. And that's very hard to do when almost all management is about hierarchy. So that's sort of why I don't spend a lot of time on that stuff. But I intuit a lot of how I want to build the company.
Okay, let's get something completely different. What's your most favorite place in the world? Apart from your new apartment in San Francisco, okay.
My most favorite physical location.
You've traveled, so you've got,
Yeah, I do. I have traveled. Yeah. I think I'd have to say Paris. I mean, it's a commercial answer, if you will. It's not Prague, but it's. I had a very. We had. I spent a month there, and I had a very. It was a very like difficult time living there. It was not easy. We were like, in a 4-story walk up that I had to take all our suitcases to. We had to put up like there was nowhere to dry our clothes, so we had to put up like things on the on the rafters. We had to, we were both in like in one like room for the entire month, and there was no space. It's like a studio apartment, like tiny ass apartment. But it was, and we had the water wasn't working properly, so we had to go and get water every day. We were like, it was like almost like what I would have imagined like village living is in the city, But I loved every minute because that hardship was so fun to endure, with my partner. So that's kind of why I think Paris is probably top of that list.
So, last but not least, I don't know if you listen to this thing where we do the tropical island thing. So that's actually a nice one because everything's not tropical at the moment. There's a small tropical island in the middle of the ocean with only one phone booth, no internet. We drop you off with no technology at all, nothing. Okay. At any time, you can use the phone booth on the island to call the boat back to come and pick you up. How long do you last before making the call? And what would you do until then?
I think that I would spend, it depends on how much food is there on that island. But assuming that there's enough to keep me going for some time, I would spend a little bit of time, probably not very long. I'm very social and I cannot probably be alone for very long. So probably no more than an hour. And yeah, I'm definitely not one, like I'm the kind of person that when I went to a resort once, when I left the gates of the resort, I felt like I was escaping prison. So I feel like I would last for more than an hour. And if I had to make the call, I'd probably call my brother because I love making my problems his problems.
Hey, Shrad, that's great. Thank you for the interview. Lots of fun, lots of good comments in it, and we've got quite a few thousand listeners. If they need to get a hold of you, how can they find you online?
So LinkedIn would probably be best. Shrad Rao is how you'd find me on LinkedIn. Twitter too, if you'd like. And honestly, if you are looking for payroll, or I mean, these are very difficult times. I don't know how many people are looking to switch right now, or even considering, payroll, because it's obviously about hiring and paying people. But once things settle down, if you want to check us out at wagepoint.com, that would be where to find the whole group of really wonderful people that I have assembled to come and help you guys.
Okay. Well, thanks again. And thanks everyone for listening. Till next time, it's Phil Bliss from Canada's Podcast.
Thank you.